it's Dorothy Guining with Scrapbooking Quebec. Today I'm here for the Scrapbook Nerd online shop, and I'm going to be creating the layout you see on the screen. There are lots of layers on this page, and it's inspired by a class I'm taking called Half and Half by Chamel. Her style is really different than mine, but her designs, I totally relate to them, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on in the video as well. You're about to see what I'm going to be using. It's material from the Simple Stories Safe Travels collection. Even though this collection's been around since probably early summer, I find the colors in it work really well for fall. In addition to this, there are also lots of greens and rusts in it. My layout is going to be an early fall layout. It's about playing tourist in my own town. I'll talk more about these products throughout the process, and I will put a link to the Scrapbook Nerd online shop as well as everything I'm using. I'm also going to put a link to Chamel's website in case you're curious about her classes. Now, I've taken 2 so far, and I've loved them both, even though my style is completely different than hers. So here's what's on my desk. I'm starting with a piece of 12 by 12 Basil Marshmallow heavy cardstock. I have a 7 by 5 photo that I matted, and that can easily be replaced with 2 3.5 by 5 photos. I showed you a handful of paper from the collection, and now I'm showing you a cut apart sheet. And what I did was I cut apart the pieces that had blue floral in it, like the paper I have on my desk, as well as some of the paler blues. And I am also showing you some tags. That as well is part of a cut apart sheet from this collection. I cut those out a while back. Anyway, tags and cut apart sheets are great when creating layered layouts, and Simple Stories collections are full of them. I showed you a handful of scraps there, and now I'm showing you the embellishments I have on my desk, and here are a few tools. Those are 2 collections by Elizabeth Craft Designs, and I will talk about those a bit later on as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is create my foundation page, and what it's going to be is a large border, a vertical border on the right hand side of the page. So I already have that floral paper, which is 6 by 12, and now I'm cutting down 2 narrow strips of paper, one in that gold there and in navy as well. Now I'm cutting mine at about 1 inch wide, but when I adhere them underneath the border, I'm kind of layering them up. The 2 together will measure about 1/2 inch. So for this border, I am just listing on the screen the visible page part only. So please be aware of that if you're following along. Now, I do struggle a little bit here simply because I want the gold and the blue to be at different widths, but I do manage. And while I'm struggling, I just want to go back to what I mentioned earlier about Chamel's style being different than mine, but how I relate to her page designs. So in this case, it's a good example, the difference between design and style. The design is that large border on the right hand side of the page. That is part of the bones of the layout. The style in this case would be the selection of paper. In my case, half of my layout is white cardstock because that's something I always do on my layouts. I have a lot of white on my pages, and half of it is a floral print. In Chamel's case, for example, she loves pattern paper and lots of color, so she may use 2 different pattern papers. So that's one difference between style and design. What you just saw me do there was cut out 2 blocks of paper in that blue and in the gold, and that's going to be part of a layered photo mat a little bit later on. And I'm also cutting out 2 planner pages. Actually, I'm cutting out a planner page and a half. And I'm using 2 different die collections from Elizabeth Craft Designs. It's part of her Planner Essentials series. Each one of these collections, the 2 I'm using anyway, come with a planner page, but the positioning of the tab is different on each one of them. And each one of these collections come with their own different die accessories. I'm using only the planner pages on this particular layout. Now, what I'm showing you is how I plan to set up that layered photo mat in the middle. Pretty simple, just 2 chunks of paper. I will come in a little bit later on with those planner pages, but right now what I'm going to do is just apply a bit of ink to my layers, which is something that's really good to do when you create a layout with lots of layers. It's just a way to create a cohesive look when there's lots of different papers on the desk. I'm not a big inker. However, when I create a layout with lots of layers, I often do this. So I applied the ink. It's from VersaFine Clair. The color I used is Morning Mist. It's like a dark gray. So I put it on the gold block, the blue block, and just at the top and the bottom of that border there, because the middle part is going to be covered up with the layered photo mat. And now I'm adhering this to the page, and I just want to talk a little bit about measurements here because I am putting measurements on the screen. However, the measurements for this type of layout when creating a layered photo mat really aren't important. For me, for example, when creating a page like this, typically the scraps on my desk dictate the size of the pieces in my layered photo mat. That blue piece, for example, I probably would have cut that larger, but that's the biggest piece I had, so I just left it as is. So now you can see I have all of my embellishing around me, including my layering pieces. And my layering pieces are the planner pages, the cut apart sheets, and the tag. So I'm starting with the planner pages, and I cut the full one in half. So now I have 3 pieces. It's in graph paper. That's actually going to be where I do my journaling later on. That graph paper is from Photoplay Paper from one of their quarantine collections. I bought a whole bunch of it when it came out because I do like lined paper. So you can see I've positioned it in 3 spots to create a visual triangle around my photo. And now I'm starting with the other layers. So I'm working with the tags and the cut apart sheets here because those are the biggest pieces. And my main embellishment cluster is going to be in the top right where you see me working right now. I want to mention I am working with the layers there. You notice that the gold tag is behind the planner page, the blue cut apart sheet is behind the gold block, and the tag in front is behind the photo. I also want to mention that blue cut apart sheet that has the binoculars at the top of the page. When I put that there, it inspired me to find 2 more pieces in that blue color and put it elsewhere in the page in a visual triangle. Again, I was introducing a new color. I wanted to repeat it elsewhere on the layout. So I put that globe there over on the left, and there will be a pale blue tag sticking out on the right side of the page. I'm adhering all of this down as well. There's one more thing I want to mention about the cluster at the top. When I was adhering those pieces, or when I'm actually adhering them right now, I'm making sure to stagger them. I want them layered on top of each other, but I don't want them to fall directly underneath each other. For example, if you look at the 2 tags, one of them is a bit more towards the left and one is a bit more towards the right. So I'm being very aware when I'm adhering these pieces to the page. I am going to come in and do some finishing touches, but I have the main parts in place. So that's why I stop at this point and adhere them. And then what I'll do is come back and add some finishing touches, including a title. Now at this point, I think my title is going to be this piece of ephemera that says, "Let's go." And even though I don't end up using it, I've left it in the video for 2 reasons. One reason is that I want to show you how I alter ephemera pieces, and I do this often actually. For example, that ephemera piece, "Let's Go," I find it just a little bit boring for a title. So what I want to do is beef it up a bit. I'm taking a stitched oval die from my stash and I'm just cutting it out. So I still have the words "Let's Go" there. And even though you're not going to be able to see it on the screen, there is a nice embossed stitch around the edge. Now what I'm going to do is take this gold cardstock and I'm going to cut another stitched oval a little bit bigger, so it's going to act as a mat. So I'm just trying to make this "Let's Go" ephemera piece a little bit more exciting. I even cut out a 3rd oval. It's the same size as the gold one. I'm doing it in a white heavy cardstock. My plan at this point is to pop it up on foam adhesive, again, to make it more exciting. I end up not using it. When I place it to the page, I find it too distracting. I find that it's making the cluster on the left almost as big, not quite, as the one on the top right. The bottom line is I end up not liking it. I want those 2 embellishment clusters to have different weights, and I don't like it. So I'm not going to use it. And my point is, I would like to mention sometimes when we're scrapbooking and we have an idea, we have to take risks. And by taking risks, you may end up doing something you absolutely love. But if you don't love it, don't beat yourself up about it. Don't feel like you have to use it. If I put that Let's Go ephemera piece that I created at the bottom, it would have been okay, but I wouldn't have truly loved it. And sometimes permitting yourself to take risks and permitting yourself to make mistakes and not use them is the difference between creating a page you love and a page that is just kind of so-so. So back to my page here. I've decided to scrap that title, Let's Go. And my title's actually going to be that small piece that says vacation there, which isn't very big for a title for me. However, what I did do was pop it up on foam adhesive, and it is on that tag there that has white. So it does stand out, and I am happier with that. I'm also coming in with some of those brads there. They are self-adhesive brads, and I put them in each one of the tags, and behind each one of the tags I did punch out a 1/2 inch circle, or behind each one of those self-adhesive brads. I'm also playing with the layers here. So you saw there I took a piece of ephemera, I cut it in half. I'm thinking of using part of it in one spot of the layout and part of it in another. It says like explore, dream, discover, something like that. And I knew the word dream I would never use, so I didn't mind cutting it in half, and I thought I could use half of each, but I end up not using it. And this is going to bring me to another point here with regards to style and design. Simply because for here, for example, the style, the design, I'm sorry, is that layered photo mat that kind of transects the border. The style, however, is how many layers you're actually going to add to it and what you actually do with the layers. Now, I'm trying to tuck more pieces in. You see me there tucking another tag behind that word vacation, but I don't like it. The truth is, most of what I like to do is to keep things fairly simple. But some people, their style, they love tons and tons of layers. So I could have continued with my layers here, no problem. But for me, keeping it somewhat simple is my style. So I'm just going to respect my style here. Also, how you treat the layers, I could have ripped the layers. I could have roughed up the layers. Again, that's part of style, but I kept it flat. That is my style. So that's what I have here for you today. I hope you enjoyed it. I did add a few things to the layout. You may notice that the gold block, I did trim it down a bit, so the measurements on the screen are for the final gold block, not for the larger one I created at the beginning. I did add some faux stitching in 3 different spots on this layout, 2 on that gold paper above the photo, and 1 underneath on that journaling tag. And underneath the journaling tag as well, I did add the word fun there just to bring a bit of that gold right through the photo. And what else did I do here? I think, oh, of course, I added some words there in each one of the tabs, and those words actually came from the Jen Hadfield Reaching Out sticker book. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to the Scrapbook Nerd YouTube channel, we would be absolutely thrilled if you did. Also to my channel, Scrapbooking Quebec. Make sure you check out the shop. There are tons of new products coming in all the time. Thank you very much, and I'll see you soon on YouTube. Bye-bye.